The problem for workshops today is that all vehicles produced now are emission controlled. The injector plays a critical part in the control and reduction of those emissions. The problem for the workshop is, how do they check these? How do they check the spray pattern? How do they check the flow rates? They can check them electronically, sure, but how do they know exactly what's coming out of that injector? Unless they can check those injectors correctly, they have no idea. I've been working in fuel injection for over 20 years. In all those times I've seen lots of changes. I've worked from cage-electronic systems right the way through to the latest PZO GDI injection systems. In all that time, one thing has not changed: the elements that the engine requires: air, fuel, ignition. Those three things have not changed. All that's changed is the timing, the quantity and the way those elements have been delivered. In the early days of cage-electronic, it was all about flow rates. Spray pattern wasn't important. Now we're on the GDI, flow rate's not important. That can be changed by the adaptive system. What is important is the spray pattern. The main cause of injector problems today is poor fuel quality, lack of maintenance and service, driving conditions, stop-start journeys, speed humps, M25, traffic jams. All of these contribute to the problems that are now seen in injectors. On the early manifold type injectors, the lacquer used to clog the injector, restricting the flow rate, changing the spray pattern. That would in turn affect the way the engine runs. On the latest GDI injection systems, these fit directly into the combustion chamber, the much more hostile environment. They get much more carbon build up in the injectors, and because these are really reliant upon correct spray pattern, the carbon build up will affect the spray pattern. That affects the way the engine runs. Nowadays, garages tend to ignore the injectors, basically because the equipment they have cannot correctly and accurately analyse the injector's performance while it's on the vehicle. Sure, they can check the electronic operation, they can check the injector's resistance, they can check the injector's pulsing, but they can't check the injector's spray pattern. They can't check the spray pattern for fuel distribution and atomization. They can't check the fuel delivery. Basically, they can check what's going into the injector, they can't check what's coming out of it. For example, if you've got a fuel droplet this size, and it should be this size, that will actually wet the manifold walls. The fuel will run down the manifold walls, it will gum up the inlet valve, run into the combustion chamber, cause bore wash, carbon up the exhaust valve, gum up the EGR valve, lacquer the lambda sensor and clog the catalytic converter. All of these problems can be resolved by replacement, but the cause of the problem can still be in place. My advice would be, don't find the problem, find the cause of the problem. If it's a combustion related problem and the diagnostic tool fails to reveal any faults, then you should start at the centre of the combustion chamber and work outwards. You should always avoid diagnosis by replacement. It's easy to replace CATs, lambda sensors, EGR valves, but these may be a consequence of injector problems and the cause of the problem could still be in place. Remember, correct combustion is not an option, it's a requirement. Don't forget the injector. You can't fix what you can't see. GDI, gasoline direct injection, is the latest generation of injection systems and comes in two forms, either a solenoid injector or a piezo injector. These injectors feature a new adaptive system that have a habit of masking any loss in the injector performance, which means injector problems go undetected for a longer period. These systems do not correct, they compensate. This means the workshop now have to carry out their diagnosis with a greater precision than before. Remember, the engine requires three basic elements: air, fuel and ignition, and all the components related to these elements must be fully investigated, including the injectors. The cost of these new injectors can be like the pressure they run at, 10 times higher, so the days of fitting a new one without testing are fading fast.